Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to be doing the biology paper 2 multiple choice, and this is the latest one from Cambridge, the February-March 2023 paper. So this is a very recent paper, and to prepare for the October-November test, I'm doing this for you guys. Let's get started. Question 1. What is used as a means of classification? Remember, if you classify things, you typically use the sequence of base in DNA to classify the organisms. So C is the correct answer, and it is also the most accurate way to classify an organism. Question number 2. How many jointed legs does an insect have? So let's take for say a butterfly. Let's say a butterfly, for example. We can see that they have 3 pairs of legs, which is 6 legs. So every insect have 6 legs or 3 pairs. So we have to choose B. Question number 3. The photo micrograph shows cell from a type of aquatic plant. Which labeled parts indicate that this is a plant cell? Remember, a plant cell, they contain chloroplast, they contain a cell wall. So you can see this S is pointing towards a chloroplast. And you can see that this P is a nucleus, because the nucleus is very large, it's the largest organelle. And Q is the cell wall, and R is the cell membrane. So we can see that in plant cells, only the cell wall and chloroplast are the distinctive features of a plant cell, and therefore S and Q, therefore D is the correct answer. Question number 4. The diagram shows a red blood cell. The actual diameter of the cell is 7 micrometers. What is the magnification of the cell? So the length here, 49 millimeters. The given length in the picture is actually its image size. So we have to find the actual size. We have to find the magnification. So the actual size and image size is given. Remember, use the formula magnification is equal to image size over actual size. And the key thing here to note is that you can see that the micrometers and millimeters are not really the same units, so you have to also know the conversions between those two. So 1 millimeter is actually 1000 micrometer. So you can either convert 7 micrometers to millimeters or 49 millimeters to micrometers. But in this case, it is easier to convert 49 millimeters to a micrometer, so it will be 49,000 micrometers. And divided by 7 micrometers. Since the units are the same, you can cancel them off. And now this gives us an answer approximately of 7,000. Therefore, C is the correct answer. Question number 5. Which molecule crosses a partially permeable membrane during osmosis? Partially permeable meaning semi-permeable. So some substances will not be allowed to go into the cell, but other substances may be allowed to go into the cell. So it really depends on the molecule. So what molecule crosses during osmosis? Remember, osmosis is basically the going in and out of water molecules, right? So the answer is D. It's pretty obvious. Question number 6. The graph shows the rate of uptake of magnesium ions by 2 similar plants, X and Y. The roots of each plant were placed in range of solution. Each solution contained a different concentration of magnesium ions. All other conditions were kept constant. What is the possible explanation for the difference in the result in 2 plants? So we know here that the concentration, each solution contain a different concentration of magnesium ions, and this means this is the independent variable or the control variable. You are changing this variable. Independent variable, and all other conditions were kept constant. Okay, so what is the possible explanation? Let's see. We can see that plant X has a steeper graph than plant Y, and it has a higher uptake of magnesium ions than plant Y. So what can we say about this? Plant Y has fewer protein carriers for magnesium ions in cell membranes. This is correct. Why is plant X taking up more magnesium ions than plant Y? This can only be explained with the protein carriers that actually transport the mineral ions, in this case the magnesium ions, across the cell membrane into the cell. So plant X has more protein carriers than plant Y, so plant Y has less carriers, and this is a very possible explanation. Question number 7. Which substance is used to test the food for vitamin C? Remember, we use a test called the CPIP. We use this test to test for vitamin C. It is blue in color. If vitamin C is present, it turns colorless. So we have to choose B. Question number 8. In DNA, what is the correct base pairing? You have to know the base pairing. Remember, A and T will always pair up together, and C and G will pair up together. So in this case here, A and T will pair up together, therefore D is the correct answer. Question number 9. What remains at the end of an enzyme-controlled reaction? Remember, an enzyme-controlled reaction, this means that the enzymes are going to be remained, because remember, enzymes, they do not get involved in the reaction. They are not actually being consumed. They actually speed up the rate of reaction without being consumed. They are basically biological catalysts. This is the definition you have to know as well. So enzyme is the one of the products that will remain, and the other one that will remain are the products itself, at the enzyme. So A is the correct answer. Question number 10. Which features explain the specificity of an enzyme? Okay. This is basically the shape of the active site and the substrate. Now, what am I saying here? Well, let's say the enzyme looks something like this. It looks something like this. And so this is the enzyme, and the product or the substrate that is going in has to be this one. So you can see it has a very cylindrical or like curve shaped, which the enzyme also have as well. So they are both complementary. So we say that this is a key and lock model, just like a key and lock. Not all keys can open any lock, so we call it a key and lock model. So A is the correct answer. Question 11. A plant is placed in the dark until all of its stored starch is used up. This is destarching. The plant is placed in the light with black paper over part of one green leaf. After 8 hours, the leaf is tested for starch. Which diagram shows the appearance of the leaf after the test? Okay, so you see the black paper, this means there is no photosynthesis. So starch is not present. We can see there's a hole cut in the paper. That means starch is present here because there is photosynthesis. And also this white part that is not covered will also have starch. So we can draw like a general, it will be shaded here and here. So this leaves us with B. So B is the correct answer. Question number 12. The diagram shows part of a cross section of the leaf. Now immediately try to label out these things. So R is the cuticle, the waxy cuticle, if you want to be nitty gritty. The S is the palisade mesophyll. The T is the spongy, right? Spongy mesophyll. Okay, so which row shows the correct labels? R is the cuticle, S is the palisade, and T is the spongy mesophyll. A is the correct answer. Question 13. The diagram shows different types of human teeth. Which teeth are used for grinding food? Remember, when you grind food, you use molars. Molars are made up, there are two types of molars. There are molars and premolars. Premolars are basically molars, but before they become a molar, they take the shape of a similar molar. I hope that makes sense. But So they are basically have flat surfaces. That's one of the key to this, to finding out which one is molars. So we can see there's a very flat surface here, and this could be a molar. The 4 could be a premolar molar. So 1 and 2 is not, because it has a very sharp edge to it, and therefore C is the correct answer. I'm sorry, 4 doesn't look like a molar, does it? Sorry, my mistake. So yes, so they do have a flat surface, but if we look at it properly, 4 doesn't look like a molar. It's not really bulky. So 1 is a molar, a premolar, while 4 and 2 are not molars actually. So 1 and 3, therefore A is the correct answer. 14. The diagram shows a villus. Structure P and Q absorbs different products of digestion. Let's label the diagram first. Q. What is Q? Q is the lacteal. P is the capillaries. And so we know that the capillaries absorb glucose, amino acids. Lacteals, they absorbs fats, glycerol, and fatty acid, basically the product of fat digestion. So which rules identify the products? P is glucose or amino acid, Q absorbs fatty acid, so C is the correct answer. Question 15, the arrow shows the movement of substances from soil into root hair cell. Which substances move from soil into a root hair cell? Now this is only, it could only be one answer, which is water and mineral ions, because they are in the soil. And water, they move by osmosis. Mineral ions, they are moved by active transport. So C is the D is the correct answer. Question 16. By which processes does water escape the stomata in the leaves? Now they escape with diffusion, because this is the water vapor, so it does not escape by osmosis. Question 17. Which rule about the circulatory system is correct? This is okay, the part that pumps the blood is actually the heart itself. The part with the valves, okay, we want to know the part with the valves. So remember, veins have valves in them, and then heart as well have the valves. So what am I saying here? So let me draw a simplified diagram of the heart. So we see the right atrium, the right ventricle, the left atrium, left ventricle. We can see that there are two. These are the atrioventricular valve, atrioventricular valve. So hearts and veins contain, therefore A is the correct answer. Question 18. The diagram shows pressure changes that takes place in the right atrium, right ventricle, and left ventricle of the human heart. When the muscle walls contract and relax, what is the pressure in the right ventricle? When the left ventricle is at its maximum pressure. Now looking at the graph, we can immediately tell that the left ventricle has to work harder than the right ventricle, because remember, the left ventricle is sending the oxygenated blood to the body. Meanwhile, the right ventricle is sending the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. So, and lungs are pretty close to the heart. And while the whole of the body, you have to have an enormous amount of pressure to actually push the blood around. And therefore, we can know that the highest point, this highest peak graph, is actually the left ventricle. And the slightly pressure one is the right ventricle. So we can just draw a line here. can draw a line here from there. We can draw a line. So it is touching this point. And this point is the seconds. It's maximum pressure, so we have to look at actually the pressure. So we will draw a line horizontal to this. Now it is giving something around 3.0 kilopascal, and therefore C is the correct answer. Question 19. The sequence of amino acids in antibodies enable them to do complete which function? The sequence of amino acids determine the type of protein that they will produce. So if a different amino acid will produce a different type of protein, and this enables antibodies. So what is the function of antibodies? Well, antibodies will bind to a specific antigen. Remember, antigen is just a fancy word or biological term for foreign particles. Okay, question 20. The table shows some of the changes that occur during breathing. So this is inspiration. What changes occurs to cause inspiration? To cause inspiration, the diaphragm, remember, I'm going to draw a diagram here. The diaphragm is going to become contract. This is its relaxed form. This is the contract form. So diaphragm is going to be relaxed to contract, and the external intercostal muscle is going to also contract. It's going to expand. The outer part of the lungs muscle are going to contract outwards, so that the volume of air inside is more. And because the external contracts, the internal is going to relax, because we call them the antagonistic muscles. So X, Y, and R, this is C. Question 21. The apparatus shown was used to investigate aerobic respiration in seeds. The apparatus was laid in a dark room. Okay, we see the seeds sunk in water, chemical which absorbs the gas in a colored liquid. All environmental conditions were kept constant. What will happen in the apparatus? Well, the gas taken in by the seeds, remember here we see the seeds and water. This means that the gas taken in by the seeds is oxygen, because they are going to respire. They are doing respiration. So the gas taken in by the seed is oxygen. And so this respiration will release water and carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide is a chemical, the gas that will be absorbed by the chemical here. And then the colored liquid, the direction of the colored liquid, as you see, it's moving outwards. Sorry, it is actually moving inwards towards this towards the seed. So C is the correct answer. Question 22. Why is yeast used in bread making? Yeast is used in bread making because of one function, because it's during an aerobic function of yeast. It produces ethanol and the very important object called CO2, very important gas. The CO2 will make the bread rise up, and this is the process of making bread. In the diagram, which labels identify as the urethra. Now people really often confuse ureter and urethra. The urethra is connected to the bladder. This is the bladder. So C is actually the urethra. And then the pipes that are leading to the bladder are actually called the ureter, which is this D one. So in here it asks you the urethra, therefore C is the correct answer. Question 24, the diagram shows a reflex arc. Which labels identify the motor neuron? The motor neuron, okay, we have to actually draw a little diagram here. So firstly, the stimulus is going to be picked up by the receptor cells, right? Receptor cells are going to pick up the stimulus in your finger, and then it's going to send an information to the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron will carry the electrical impulse to the will carry it to the you could call it a relay neuron. The relay neuron will relay the electrical signal to the motor neuron, and the motor neuron will then go and relay the signal to the effector, which will carry out the command. So we can see this muscle is actually an effector. So the nerves that are connecting to the effector is basically the motor neuron. Thus, B is the correct answer. Okay, moving on. Question 25. Which structures contain neurotransmitter molecules in neurons? Well, we know that neurotransmitter in neurons, it is the vesicles. Inside the vesicles, there are many neurotransmitter molecules. So D is the correct answer. Question 26. The diagram shows a seedling growing inside a dark box. Which type of responses affect the direction of growth of the root and the shoot inside the box? Now here, we see that the response by the root will always respond to the gravitropism. It has positive gravitropism. It will grow towards gravity. The response by the shoot here will also be gravitropism. And here it is going against gravity, therefore it has negative gravitropism. And now you might be wondering why it's not phototropism, because here, remember, it is inside a dark box, so it has no light to which it can respond to. So the only reasonable answer is that it can respond to gravitropism only, so A is the correct answer. Question 27. Why is MRSA infection difficult to treat? Remember, MRSA is a bacterium. It was actually one of the first bacterium, I believe, to be resistant to antibiotics, and that's why people are really afraid of the bacterial evolution, or basically the resistance to antibiotics. So it is one of the first bacterium to be resistant to antibiotics. That's why it is very difficult to treat. Question 28. What is the order of the flower parts through which the pollen tube must grow to reach the axil during fertilization? Well, remember, there is the stigma. The pollen will land on the stigma, and then the pollen tube will grow down the stigma, right? Down the style. This is the style. And then down the ovary, and then towards the ovule. So it's going to be stigma first, style second, ovary third, and then finally to the axil inside the ovule. So it's going to follow this pathway, therefore B is the correct answer. Question 29. Which diagram shows the exchange products between mother and fetus is correctly labeled? Okay, we see 4 diagrams. The exchange of products, so you can see it's basically going to be exchanged in the umbilical cord, right? So the waste product, the babies are going back to the mother, and the nutrients are going towards the baby, and so D looks like a correct answer. Question 30. Which statement about synthesis of protein molecule in a cell is correct? Okay, let's read. The gene coding for the protein moved from the nucleus to the cytoplasm. The gene coding DNA does not move, but the mRNA do move. So this is actually the wrong wording here. Therefore, A is the wrong answer. The ribosome assemble amino acids into DNA molecules. This is wrong. They do not assemble amino acids into DNA molecules, they assemble them into protein molecules. The mRNA remains in the nucleus. It does not remain in the nucleus. Instead, it moves from the nucleus to the cytoplasm, from which it is attached to the ribosome, and the ribosome can then synthesize the protein molecule. So this is wrong. The sequence of amino acid is determined by the sequence of bases in the mRNA. This is correct. And you'll have to learn that as well. 31. Each statement describes cell division by mitosis or meiosis in humans. Which statement describes meiosis? Meiosis, remember, is a reduction division. Reduction division, basically the chromosomes are halved. So it is a reduction division. It produces cells that are haploid. Remember to know the difference between haploid and a diploid. A diploid is produced by mitosis and it has a full set of chromosomes, while a haploid only has half the set. So 3 and 4. Okay, and it also produces cells that shows variation, because meiosis is basically the fusion of two different gametes, and they are going to produce a new variation, i.e. they are not clones of each other. So 1, 3, and 4, therefore D is the correct answer. Question 32. In humans, what is the genotype of a red-green colorblind male? Okay, so this one we have to draw actually a Punnett square. So a red-green colorblind male. Actually, we don't need to draw a Punnett square because they already given us the option here. So we just have to choose. XX is female. Remember, XX is female. Y is male. So A and B cannot be the correct answer. And remember, the red-green colorblind disease is a recessive gene. It is caused by a recessive gene. And recessive genes, they are usually written in lowercase letters. So in this case, small r. Therefore, D is the correct answer. Question 33. Which is a feature found in hydrophytic plant? These are plants that likes to live in watery areas. Remember, they do not have waxy cuticle, because the waxy cuticle purpose is to prevent water loss, but since they are already in a hydrophytic environment, they don't need this waxy cuticle. They don't need to worry about losing water. So D is the correct answer. Question 34. Which statements are correct during both natural selection and artificial selection? In natural selection, this is the environment which is playing with the organisms. In artificial selection or selective breeding, this is the humans that are in place of the environment, that are controlling the breeding environment. So for the artificial selection, it says both. Which statement are correct for both? So only certain individuals reproduce. This is artificial selection. Only certain individuals reproduce. This is for both, because in natural selection, only the strongest or the fittest organisms were made with each other. For selective breeding as well, humans will crossbreed the organisms with the desirable characteristics. So one applies to both natural selection and artificial selection. The alleles are passed on to the offspring. This is correct. So 1 and 2 are correct, therefore A is the correct answer. Question 35. The diagram shows a food chain. Which diagram shows a pyramid of energy for the food chain? Remember, a pyramid of energy can never be inverted, which means it will always have to look something like this, because you cannot have a less energy pyramid, less energy food chain, or the less energy tropical level under a last one. So what I'm saying is like this one. You cannot have a large energy on top of small tropic level. So it's not possible. A and B is not possible. Now C and D. Obviously C is going to start from the producers first. Producers to the top of the food chain. Consumers, so C is the correct answer. 36. In the nitrogen cycle, what are processes 1 and 2? So the nitrates in soil, okay, the nitrates in soil are going to be converted back to N2. This is because of the nitrifying bacteria. And farmers really do hate this type of bacteria because it makes the soil unfertile. This is the nitrifying. So the nitrogen from the atmosphere turns into plant protein. Now this is called nitrogen fixation. So this is done by nitrogen fixing bacteria. They convert the N2 in the air to NO3 in the plants. So it is D. 37. Untreated sewage is accidentally released into a river for several weeks. How will this affect the number of bacteria, the oxygen concentration of the water, and the number of fish? So in sewage, right, so this is basically asking for eutrophication process. So the number of bacteria inside sewage is obviously going to increase. The oxygen concentration of the water or the lake or pond is going to decrease because the bacteria will respire, and respiration, as you know, uses oxygen. Therefore the oxygen concentration will decrease, and this means that the number of fish will get less oxygen. So the aquatic animals such as fish will die, or their number or population is going to decrease. Therefore B is the correct answer. 38. Fish stocks can be conserved in various ways. Which methods of conservation ensures that mainly large fish are caught? Okay, this is basically nets. You have to use appropriate nets for catching various fish. So if you have a net that is very small, it's going to catch all types of fish. If you have a net that is very large, it's going to catch the large fish, but not the small fish or aquatic organisms like turtles instead. So you have to have a minimum mesh size for nets. 39. Which component of bacteria is genetically modified to produce human insulin? The component of bacteria we use plasmid, and because they are extra DNA of the bacteria, we can actually modify them and actually insert the human insulin gene inside there and let it produce insulin for us. Now 40. Fermenters must have carefully controlled conditions. Which condition has the correct reasoning for controlling it? So supply of amino acids. This is not control for carbohydrate synthesis. This is false. The supply of glucose is not controlled due to the waste product. The supply of oxygen is not for anaerobic but actually for aerobic respiration. The pH condition is controlled for the enzyme to work properly in the optimum pH. So D is the correct answer. Okay, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you understand every single one of them, and I would like to say thank you again for watching these videos. It does take effort and time to put out these videos weekly. So I hope you guys get everything. If you have any doubts, please leave them in the comments below. I have also put the link in the description box below so that you can check out and try this out yourself as well. Okay, that's it. Until we meet again, bye.